Once you turn 80, these 5 things happen whether you like it or not: signs of aging. If you're approaching 80 or already there, you've definitely noticed that life doesn't simply go on the same way it did in your 70s. There are 5 specific changes that happen to every person at this age, and I mean every person, whether they're prepared for them or not. These are not health conditions or issues to solve, but universal changes that every individual experiences after they cross this milestone. Some of these changes might worry you. Others might shock you. But the 5th one? It's certainly the most liberating thing that can happen to a human being. And if you have no idea what's coming, you might miss the wonderful opportunity that these changes bring. Today, we are going to dive into the 5 natural changes that happen at 80, changes that nobody talks about freely, but every person experiences. These aren't serious medical issues or declines to fear. They're normal life changes that, when understood properly, can truly boost your quality of life dramatically. In a few moments, you'll find out exactly what changes in your energy and sleep patterns, how your social world naturally evolves, why your relationship with time totally transforms, what occurs to your memory and thinking processes, and perhaps the most surprising change of all, one that might just be the greatest thing about turning 80. Here's what many people don't realize. Knowing these changes ahead of time is like having a road map for the most potentially fulfilling years of your life. Now, let's get started. 1. Physical energy and sleeping patterns change dramatically. The first thing that happens at 80 is your energy and sleep habits encounter a fundamental transformation that's unlike anything you've experienced before. This is not about feeling exhausted, it's about your body working at a completely different pace. And many individuals fight against it rather than learning to work with it. Here's what's definitely happening: your circadian cycle, which has been your internal clock for many years, starts changing earlier. Your body naturally wants to sleep around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. and get up around 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. Your vitality peaks happen in the morning and early afternoon, with an immense dip around 2 p.m. That's considerably more pronounced than it was in your earlier years. This is not fatigue, it's your body's new optimal schedule. The sleep pattern changes too. You will spend more time in lighter sleep cycles and less in deep sleep, which means you might get up more often during the night. Let me tell you about Elena, an 81-year-old retired teacher. For the first 2 years after turning 80, she became frustrated and worried because she was unable to stay up past 9 p.m. any longer and continued waking up at 5:30 a.m. She felt something was wrong with her. Her doctor said this was totally normal, and rather than fighting it, she structured her whole day around her new natural rhythm. Now Elena does her most essential activities, reading and light physical activity, in the morning when her energy is strongest. She arranges events for early afternoon, takes a brief 20-minute rest around 2 p.m. without remorse, and has learned to like her early sleep. The result? She feels more vibrant than she has for decades. Here are 3 practical techniques to work with your new energy patterns. First, figure out your own energy peaks using a simple 1-week tracking of physical activity. Note when you feel most alert and when you naturally feel exhausted. Second, arrange your daily priorities to fit these peaks. Do your most challenging tasks when your energy is at the highest level. Third, create regular sleep habits that align with your new natural bedtime, including reducing lights an hour before sleep and avoiding screens. 2. Your social circle naturally changes in unexpected ways. This is not just about losing people, though that's part of it. It's about an overall evolution in how you interact with other people and what those connections mean to you. At 80, you'll notice that certain friendships naturally diminish while others get more profound and more important than ever before. This happens for many different reasons. Your priorities change toward more genuine connections. You have less tolerance for shallow relationships, and you're attracted to those who share your current life stage instead of just your past. You could find yourself less interested in big social events and more attracted to intimate conversations. This social evolution serves an essential purpose. Your emotional energy gets more valuable, and your brain naturally leads you toward connections that provide legitimate support, understanding, and happiness. It's not social isolation, it's social optimization. Consider the story of Jacob, who at 83 was initially worried when his long-term poker group eventually dissolved. Certain members had health problems, others relocated to be closer to family, and the connections just weren't the same. Jacob felt like he was losing his social identity. But then something fascinating transpired. Jacob began working at the nearby library's literacy program, where he met individuals in their 70s and 80s. These new friendships were formed around shared purpose instead of a shared history. Jacob found out that conversations with these new friends were more important and engaging than most of his previous social relationships had been. Jacob also discovered that his relationships with his adult children strengthened during this time. As he became more selective about his social energy, he engaged more in the relationships that genuinely counted, and his family noticed and responded positively. Here's how to handle this social change successfully. First, grant yourself permission to let certain relationships gradually disappear without guilt. Not every friendship has to last forever, and that's fine. Second, actively search for new connections with those who are in similar life stages or who match your present interests and principles. Third, create the connections that excite you by being more purposeful about quality time and meaningful conversation. The fourth strategy is important: don't try to keep up the same social pace you had in your 60s or 70s. Quality gets far more essential than quantity. A significant 2-hour conversation with one person can be more rewarding than an entire day of shallow social interaction. Most importantly, understand that this social refinement isn't about being antisocial or losing hope on new interactions. Many individuals at 80 claim that their friendships become more transparent, helpful, and emotionally rewarding than they've ever been. You're not losing your social world, you're enhancing it. The third thing that happens at 80 is possibly the most profound. Your relationship with time dramatically shifts, and with it, your whole priority system gets turned upside down, in the greatest possible way. At 80, you undergo what psychologists call time perspective change. Days might feel short since you have less physical vitality, but paradoxically, you become extremely selective about how you use every single time. This isn't about running out of time, it's about finally knowing what time is actually for. You will find yourself being concerned less about what others think and more about what gives you real fulfillment. Social expectations that once felt important, keeping up appearances, maintaining particular standards only for show, pleasing those who aren't truly important to you, begin to feel entirely unimportant. This change provides a significant independence. You start saying no to things that deplete your energy and yes to things that nourish your soul, often for the first time in your later years. The fear of missing out becomes replaced with the excitement of choosing intelligently. Let me share the story of Rose, who at 82 made a decision that surprised every member of her family. Rose had been an active member of her church for over 35 years, serving on committees, planning events, and carrying out social obligations that had become exhausting instead of fulfilling. She discovered she was spending much of her limited energy on activities that seemed more like duty than a good time. Therefore, Rose made a dramatic change. She stepped down from all her committee positions and instead began spending her Sunday mornings in her garden, which had always been her sincere passion but something she'd never had sufficient time for. She started volunteering at the community garden one day a week, where she could share her experience with younger gardeners and work with her hands in the soil. Her family was initially afraid that she might be giving up or getting isolated. Instead, Rose reported feeling more vibrant and engaged than she had in decades. She was no longer spending time on obligations and began investing it in what was truly important to her. This time perception change affects decision-making in profound ways. At 80, you're more inclined to make decisions based on personal contentment instead of external expectations. You could take up a pastime you always wanted to do, cut off relationships that no longer benefit you, or establish living arrangements that favor your comfort over convention. The practical impact is important. You become far better at acknowledging what's genuinely important versus what merely looks urgent. You develop what researchers called crystallized wisdom, the capacity to see through superficial concerns to what is truly important in any situation. Here's how to cope with this time transformation positively. First, conduct a time audit of your normal week. Consider activities that energize you versus those that exhaust you, and look for patterns. Second, practice saying no to requests that don't line up with your real priorities, and don't feel bad about it. Third, spend more time in things that give you immense fulfillment, regardless of whether they're not productive by traditional standards. Fourth, utilize this new time viewpoint to have crucial conversations and experiences you've been postponing. 4. Memory and mental processing undergo interesting and adaptive changes. The fourth change that occurs at 80 involves your memory and thinking ability, but it's not a simple decline that many individuals fear. Rather, your brain experiences sophisticated transformation that trades particular abilities for other people, and the trade-off can be better than you imagine. Yes, short-term memory gets less reliable. You might step into a room and forget why you came in or struggle to recall a name that was just mentioned. But here's what's interesting, while your brain gets less effective at keeping information temporarily, it usually becomes far better at accessing and connecting long-term memories in significant ways. At 80, many individuals claim that memories from many years ago become extremely vivid and detailed. More significantly, your brain gets more powerful at seeing patterns and connections between occurrences. This is why elderly people usually excel at wisdom-based decisions, regardless of whether their processing speed decreases. Your brain is effectively changing from a high-speed information processor to a sophisticated pattern recognition and insight synthesis mechanism. You trade rapid recall for deep knowledge and quick learning for deep understanding. The decision-making changes are particularly fascinating. While you might take longer to process new information, you frequently make better decisions because you're drawing on a vast database of lifetime experiences and can quickly figure out what's really important versus what's just noise. Consider what happened to Andrew, now 82, a former engineer. Andrew was initially frustrated when he found out he could no longer quickly recall technical specifications the way he used to. But he discovered something incredible. When his adult son consulted him about complicated work challenges, Andrew could almost immediately see solutions that eluded younger, technically brighter colleagues. Andrew's brain was no longer optimized for memorizing new data, but it became extremely sophisticated at spotting patterns and incorporating seemingly unrelated concepts. His years of experience had established an intellectual pathway that allowed for wisdom that pure processing speed could not match. Andrew learned to work with his new cognitive abilities. He began keeping a small notebook for important day-to-day information, freeing his mental energy for the more profound thoughts he was now better at than ever. He joined a community advisory board where his pattern recognition skills were important for long-term planning decisions. Here are 4 techniques to boost your cognitive ability at 80. First, externalize routine information storage. Use calendars, lists, and notes for everyday details so your mental energy can concentrate on more complicated thinking. Second, participate in activities that draw on your pattern recognition strengths, strategy games, guiding younger people, or complicated problem solving, which benefit from life's lessons. Third, maintain mental challenge by learning that builds on your existing insight base instead of aiming to acquire unfamiliar skills. Fourth, understand that your thinking pattern has evolved, not deteriorated. You're now optimized for insight rather than speed. The most important mentality change is knowing that cognitive aging isn't only about loss. Your 80-year-old brain operates differently than your 30-year-old brain, and in numerous ways, it's specialized better for the types of decisions and insights that matter most at this life stage. You might not remember where you placed your reading glasses, but you can instantly recognize when someone is giving you bad advice, see through intricate social situations to what's actually happening, and make decisions that account for details that would escape quicker but less experienced thinking. 5. You experience an unexpected and deep sense of freedom and authenticity. This is not just about caring less what people think, it's about finally becoming who you really are. At 80, most of the external factors that shaped your earlier decisions just disappear. You're no longer trying to build a career, impress colleagues, or meet social norms about success. Your children are grown, your primary life responsibilities are essentially complete, and suddenly you have permission, maybe for the first time, to live according to your own principles and desires. This freedom manifests itself in amazing ways. You could find yourself expressing opinions you've held for decades, pursuing activities that others always believed were impractical, or making decisions that value your fulfillment over convention. The fear of criticism that once affected so many decisions becomes practically meaningless. What's really amazing about this change is that it's not about becoming selfish. Rather about becoming truly yourself, which often makes you more fascinating, more trustworthy, and more helpful to the people around you. The contradiction is striking. At the same time your physical abilities may be more limited, your emotional and spiritual independence grows enormously. You can eventually stop playing the role that people expected you to play and begin to live as the person you truly are.